This is the ERP Advisor.
Hi, this is Shawn Windle, founder of ERP Advisors Group, and thank you for joining our podcast, Leaders in ERP. We're very fortunate today to have a pretty dynamic speaker with a very interesting company, one that has been very embedded in industry ERP software, specifically construction, for a long time. And that's really, the purpose of this podcast is to talk to people like Jeff Weiss that I'll introduce a little bit more here in a moment. But it gives our listeners an opportunity to hear what's really going on from the people and the leaders that are making these key decisions as we're going, especially through this ERP renaissance, and we're moving into AI and some of these other kind of trends. So thanks for joining us today here. But Jeff, Mr. Jeff Weiss, you are the Chief Revenue Officer of CMiC. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a delight.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can start with you giving a little bit of an intro of yourself and for our listeners about CMiC, and then we'll jump into some of the questions we have.
Absolutely. CMiC is a software developer, implementer, and supporter of construction ERP. We've been in business for over 50 years, specifically focusing on the construction realm for about 35, 40 of them. Domain expertise is something that is known to us, and really construction is part of our DNA. We live and breathe construction, and everything that we do is focused on that industry. So we're a very niche and hopefully a powerful player in that space. And our market space is geared towards the larger contractor and the more complicated business processes that need to be handled within the organization and across the business lines of business that they perform.
Fantastic. And I do have to highlight, we've done some great projects with you guys. As everybody knows, we're independent objective. We work with, the best fit for our clients, but we've had some great projects with you all. And boy, you have had just an incredible run for 50 years. Like you said, that's so unusual in the ERP space. So I think you might not have been there the whole 50 years, but a long time there, right? But
As long as we've been in the construction focus, I have been. I was brought into CMiC specifically to help build the construction ERP business, which became its sole business or our sole business. I've been with CMiC for 35 years.
Wow, that is incredible. And that means a lot to us as advisors, that when we're working with software vendors that have longevity people like you, Jeff, that really, you're not just an employee or a chief of the organization. Like you've lived and breathed this for a long time. So that's great.
Absolutely. And there's a long tenure of a lot of senior managers and people who are coming up the ranks. Even our young generation, if you will, that are in the mid-30s have been with CMiC 8, 10 years, either coming out of school or shortly thereafter. Wasn't my first gig coming out of school. I actually did other stuff before, but it's there are a couple of jokes that I usually convey sometimes in a presentation. There's a couple of reasons why people have such a long tenure with CMiC. Either we pay too much, or we're having too much fun, or maybe a little bit of both. So it is a fun place to be, and we have a mission, if you will, of what we need to accomplish and what we do to affect people's lives, not necessarily from a community perspective, but also from a business perspective, is actually quite dramatic. Not only for our own employees, but also for the industry in terms of what we can do from a technology perspective and how we can impact people's way of life and their quality of life. So it's if you take that perspective, that dynamic and that viewpoint, it adds another interesting dimension to a career.
Well, it makes it worth it, doesn't it? Where you're actually helping people and making a difference. And I think that's fantastic. It's something that maybe organizations like you all can still afford, not from a cost perspective, but from a desire perspective to meet your mission and goals that way through software. So I think that's a fantastic point.
Absolutely.
Well, good, good. Well, let's get into some of our questions here. And I'm excited about it because again, we've done quite a bit in the construction industry. It's the industry that you all focus in exclusively, like you said. Now it's been sort of telling for me. I think over the years, we work cross industry, but when we look at construction, pardon me, construction companies are usually a little more conservative with their technology investments. But wow, have we seen a change in the last, I mean, more than 2 years. I think really even I'd say 5 or 6, certainly since COVID. But what's driving that shift? Like what started that whole thing of why construction companies are saying, wow, I've got to be more automated, and where did that kind of come from?
Well, I think the short answer is probably a global pandemic, uh, a labor shortage, and probably a generation of project managers who got tired of running billion-dollar projects on spreadsheets that maybe crash when you add a new tab. So for years, construction had a very effective strategy for technology adoption, and their strategy was really watch somebody else do it first and fail. It really wasn't very forward thinking. And it was almost a competitive moat, if you will. But a few things converged. Margins got thinner, projects got more complex. Private equity started acquiring contractors and asking the questions like, hey, wait, where exactly is our data? And the answer was often, Dave has it on his laptop. And Dave is retired, by the way. So, but seriously, though, the shift is structural. Owners are demanding more transparency. Labor is too expensive to waste on rework. And the firms that survived the pandemic, the 2020 to 2022 time frame, largely did so because they had the visibility into their numbers in real time. The ones who didn't, well, they're probably case studies by now.
Mhm. Yeah, it's pretty interesting how that specific event changed a lot for many of the industries that we work with, but can definitely see that in construction. And it seems like too there's been a drive for more accessibility of data in the field and investment in technology, just mandated by owners and different people in your industry too. So it's exciting you guys have been able to keep up with that.
Yeah, I think modernization, in essence, went from a nice to have to something that is existential, and that obviously is a motivator to proceed that way. I mean, just from recollection, we had a huge influx of inquiries right at the pandemic start because people had no access to their data, and people had to go to the office, and people didn't have web-based systems. I mean, that's so rudimentary and fundamental. But even that was a driver for moving towards a more modern technology.
Yep. Okay. Okay, great. Well, if you sort of if we take our kind of attention from the past and sort of look to today and maybe the next, couple years, we'll definitely talk about AI specifically here in a minute, but what are some of the impacts that are happening in the construction industry itself, maybe trends or predictions that you see there that are really going to impact technology from your all's perspective?
Yeah, I think if I had to wrap it up into a few words, 3 words, data, and well, compliance. But not really. Also data, but also compliance. But seriously, the trends I'm watching most closely are connected financials, workforce intelligence, and the slow death of the point solution. What's happening is that there's a tremendous amount of investment to specific applications to resolve a unique problem in the business process flow, and yeah, and they work very well for the purpose that they are built for. But in the end, it goes nowhere. The data goes nowhere. And so when I say data and data as the essential driving force, it really is data. And because data could be accumulated, but then what? What does it do in order to action an item in your business process? So let's say for the past decade, the construction tech stack looked like an episode of Hoarders, a tool for this and a tool for that, 12 integrations that sort of work on a good day, and sometimes they don't work. And so firms are waking up to the fact that disconnected data is just expensive noise. And the winners over the next 2 years, I think, will be the ones who consolidate around a true platform that actually trusts the numbers. On the workforce side, skilled labor is not coming back in the volumes we once had. You know, that interesting stat I read recently is that the average laborer in a construction firm is in their mid-40s. And that type of worker is going to retire, and it's not being replenished as quickly as will be retired. So the skilled labor is not coming back in the volumes that we once had. The industry is going to get very serious about doing much more with the same headcount, which means automation, mobile first workflows, and frankly, respecting the time of people on the tools. And then there's, of course, the regulatory environment, you know, between prevailing wage complexity and lien law variations by jurisdiction, what's coming down the pike on reporting requirements. Anybody who works for the federal government has CMMC compliance that they have to comply with. And that's not an easy certification to achieve. So if the ERP or the business systems can't handle compliance as a feature, it's really a liability and not even an asset.
Makes a lot of sense. And my guess is, well, actually, I don't have to guess because I've evaluated your software several times and my team has, that because of your history with the industries, you really understand what these sort of high-level trends mean in terms of feature functions for the apps. So are you seeing that kind of the platform that you all have is sort of a all-in-one, right, versus the point solution with some deep functionality that you're able to keep up with these modern changes?
Well, absolutely. So there's the old chemistry adage, you know, the sum of the parts are greater than the whole. We invert it to a certain extent. You know, we believe that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. We have obviously, if you break down our unified database platform into the components where apps try to fill the specific gaps, each one of our product managers are tasked and are challenged to provide the same kind of functionality for their realm, if you will, whether it be project controls or project management or payroll or assets or, you know, imaging and workflow or ECM or whatever the case may be, resource planning. And you can find apps for all of those specific functions in the business process out in the marketplace. Can you find them all connected and stitched together so that they're seamless? Absolutely not. But you can with CMiC. And our product managers are tasked with being competitive with any one of those apps that are in the field. Now, those apps are generally funded by external, you know, funders, venture capitalists, PE firms, whatever the case may be, looking for, you know, a quick win. Here's the investment. Let's see if we can get enough users and that maybe Autodesk and Procore buy you out. And that seems to be the model on an ongoing basis. But you know, we're not in that game at all. We're not VC funded. We're not. There's no PE. There's no third-party capital within CMiC, and we run it very, very different than an IT firm or a tech firm today, which is really top-line centric and forget about any profit. Where we govern ourselves more like a you know, like a shareholder owned company where we have you know, top line growth, which is necessary, and then of course profit, because you know, we're treated almost like a regular real estate investment to our shareholders, where they're looking to have continuous profit. They're not looking for the specific exit. That gives our customers a lot of comfort because you know, we, as mentioned earlier, we've been in business for 50 years and we haven't changed ownership. We haven't, it's gone generationally, but it hasn't changed, you know, to some entity that might not have the same interest or focus or desire for progress as maybe a previous owner would have. And our strategic direction is consistent. So that gives a tremendous amount of comfort to our customers that there's longevity, there's focus, and there's a continued path in terms of what we're trying to achieve. So yeah, we feel, and it's not necessarily not challenging. It is challenging in order for us to, you know, fund properly and provide the profit to our shareholders, as well as invest, you know, in the product as well as our competitors do. And we feel that we've been able to achieve that. So, and that's why it's attractive to our customer base.
It's pretty interesting when you go through those factors. When we do a selection, we sort of help clients get past just the feature function view and get into viability and long-term strategic planning of the companies that we're working with, software vendors, partners. And I can see that your background and kind of the culture of CMiC, it really resonates, especially with some of the construction companies we've worked with that are generational, or they're concerned about being on the same platform 10 and 15, 20 years from now. So they want a partner who they can look back in the past and say, well, you've been around for longer than 10 or 15 years, as well as your capitalization and sort of liquidity goals, right, aren't what some of the other players in your industry are, very frankly. And, we've worked with other construction companies as software companies as well, as you know. But the bottom line is that I think it's something that you all as a niche player, in a very important category of construction that's only going to see more and more growth with the data centers and who knows what's next. It's really important that prospects, people looking at software, understand who it is they're working with, because that will drive the quality of the software. It'll drive the upgrade path and the amount of investment in new technology and everything else, Jeff. So I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's a driving force in terms of how we think, and we strive to be the best in the marketplace. That's really our goal.
No, that's great. Well, and it's, one last thing I'll mention too, again, we sort of get this really broad trend of looking at many, many different kinds of companies that we talk to. And it does come down to the people, like always. It always comes to the individuals that you're working with. There's the software, which is a key component, right? But it's the people that are building the software and have built it that, again, I think your story it's not even your story. It's just your beingness, who you all really are, really resonates again with our clients that are, really focused on that longevity and a deep partnership, not just hey, here's the software, here's a short implementation, see you later kind of thing. Like, I think you guys partner for a while with clients, which we've seen, again, some great successes with. Again, you're not paying me for this, but I love talking about this because it helps our listeners to understand the differences in all of these ERP vendors that are out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a partnership, and we consider it as in one of our introductory communications to our customers is welcome to the CMiC family. And if you've been to some of our conferences, we have our annual Connect conference in the fall every single year, and it really is a family event. People really have a good time, not only because we put on a good show, but and talk about what the future of CMiC is, but it's also a peer-to-peer environment where people can network with like-minded professionals and be able to talk real business without a threatening, competitive nature associated with it. So they can share ideas using CMiC as the substrate for those discussions. It's really, really a good time and a very effective time for our customers.
I bet. Well, good. Well, let's go there. Let's talk about AI. So how do you see, for real, right? You're talking to many, many construction companies every day. But how do you see AI reshaping the approach to kind of construction management software? Which use cases are delivering the most tangible value for firms today?
Yeah, AI is going to be something obviously revolutionary to the industry, but AI in construction is sort of like a new apprentice. It has enormous potential, occasionally overconfident, and if you absolutely cannot leave it unsupervised without a budget, it gets to be running away quite a bit. But in seriousness, the use cases are delivering actual value right now, not demoware, not vaporware. They are very specific. Things that I could bring to fore are something like document intelligence is one of them. Okay, so construction projects generated staggering volume of contracts, submittals, RFIs, change orders, And AI that could read, classify, and flag anomalies in these documents is really saving a lot of hours. We're talking about, let's say, workflows that used to take a project accountant half a day now can take minutes. Forecasting, cost to complete analysis is another type of huge benefit that AI is accelerating the business process. AI can look at your historical project data and say, hey, projects with this profile in Q3 tend to go 8% over in labor. You might want to take a look at this one. That's genuinely valuable advice that an AI agent could benefit a business process, especially in an industry where the margin between profit and loss is probably 2 to 3 points. And what isn't working yet is AI that doesn't have a good data set to learn from. Okay? And it's where we're coming back to a unified data model that is normalized and integral. And here's the honest truth about construction. Many firms have years of project data trapped in formats that cannot be analyzed. So AI is simultaneously the opportunity and the forcing function, if you will, to finally clean up the data foundation. The firms that invest in the foundation now will have a compounding advantage, and the ones that don't will be buying very expensive AI tools in the near future, and probably they're essentially guessing about what AI could do from them if they have silos of data that are not, connected in a single fabric. And so cleansing the data, making it available for AI to actually do the work that it could do is so essential and so fundamental in terms of its execution.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes a lot of sense. I know as we've collaborated on some projects, we've spent a little bit of time in our clients' data helping to clean things out and get it structured. And it's a chore, but it's worth it. Like you said, it's even worth it today, but like going into the future, even more so. So it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. So we feel we're in a very good position specifically for that purpose. And there's a tremendous amount of effort that's going to be spent on trying to get the data clean and viable for the benefit of an AI agent to work on.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's exciting. And like you said, you're seeing some use cases already.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that really sticks out beyond what you said that maybe highlights like some real benefits that your customers are getting, maybe even with some of your solutions today?
Yes, I mean, we have a number of agents that are already being deployed on our current version. So they're fundamentally transactional agents. So we have types of query agents and task agents. And query agents would be analyze the data, which we just talked about has to be pristine in order for it to be effective. And then the task agents, perform a task that might have taken longer, and now the agent could be implemented so that it could be accelerated in terms of its performance. Documents, as I mentioned, is one of them. You can get a subcontract returned by a contractor and have to review the 80 pages and pick out where there's a problem in compliance, pick out an area where that needs to have some risk mitigation. You would have to have project accountants or lawyers looking through them, take 3, 4, 5 days maybe to review it effectively, and then but an AI agent could scan through it in 30 seconds and be able to pick out compliance, non-compliance, or risk factors that need to be focused upon. It's drawing overlays. Take a couple of sets of drawings. So you have stacks of thousands of drawings that, and you don't know where the differences are between one set and the next. Find it for me. It's like an apprentice that you don't have to be kind to. Just do it. And it could have taken an individual literally days going through those drawings and trying to find, and even a skilled person would be tasked to do it with a challenge, and where an AI agent would be able to and effectively we already provide that, an overlay, and be able to find even the most incremental pixels that are different from one drawing and another, and be able to highlight that. It's quite enormous. And then even in the back office side, if you have a bank reconciliations, how boring is that accounting feature? You take a statement from multiple banks and try to match it to your GL. Make sure it will take an accounting back office person maybe a few days to do that, where the bank reconciliation can be done literally in seconds. It just does it. The functions are developed. It knows how to match, the values to the bank account, knows where the differences are, and brings it to fore so that somebody can make a decision very quickly.
Mhm. Well, it reminds me of I came into my career. Definitely relational database management systems were in place. We'd gotten out of the mid ranges, and certainly out of mainframe. But this is the most important thing that you just highlighted in our opinion, as we advise clients on AI, which is you have to have a partner that you're already trusting with your data, your business processes, your key functionality, your analysis and reporting. Because you can't, if you just layer a tool on top of this data and start typing things in, you're training the AI tool, gosh knows off of who else's data at that point. But when you start looking at a sandbox that's defined, there's walls that are set, and you all have your team has the experience of working with this specific types of business objects over the years with construction companies. You know what to look for, and when the hallucinations, right, come back. Like that's not true. What's going on? And you can dig into it. Whereas a client doesn't. If you were tech savvy, I'll say with quotes, more like a bit of a pirate who wants to take AI and put it on your enterprise data. Let's see what happens, and you're starting to bring back information. You don't have the expert that a firm like you all do in terms of how you analyze construction business objects. It's pretty interesting because I really do see AI ultimately as this. It's not an infrastructure tool in the sense of cloud and like I said, relational database management systems, but it's more of an application developer tool like you all, that you can do some of the things that we've been begging for years. And I think we've all been trying to deliver them and promised, from my clients from 15, 20, 25 years ago, talking to, you're going to have more visibility and more information. And they had more than they did before. But now I think this really achieves an ultimate goal we've all been striving for.
There's no question. And looking and seeking for key performance indicators that you might not even considered, because that's the way you ran your business. You used, these metrics, and now it will bring additional metrics that you didn't maybe consider in their business process. I didn't realize that, I was running, a 2% margin on site work, and maybe I could have, extrapolated more margin on it just by changing a rate or using this, device or this machine, or these kind of skill sets in a different way, and really trying to extrapolate more and better margin, from the existing tasks that you. And these are things that people really don't think about because they're so almost infinitesimal. They're minute, but small changes and nuances could make huge impacts, especially in large projects.
Right. And what makes those infinitesimal changes possible is the orders of magnitude, the size of the implementation investment with, like you said, getting everybody to the cloud. And so we have more real infrastructure, more computing that's available. So we can just sprinkle what seems like this little bit on top to get significant value. So it's very exciting. But speaking of kind of like where we're at and like where are we going? Like what do you all envision the future of ERP and construction to look like? And then how are you using that in terms of your own product roadmap?
Yeah, it's age old. We just came back from a week of strategic planning offsite where we talk about product, we talk about obviously revenue, talk about our services, we talk about different aspects of our business so that we continuously plan and for the next year and see where we're going. And it's not only 1 year, but it's a 5-year plan on an ongoing basis. I think that our view specifically is that the word ERP is both exactly right and slightly unfair to what modern construction operations actually need. So the word enterprise resource planning sounds like something from the mainframe era, but for a lot of vendors, it is still something that is integral to their business process. So our view is that a construction ERP in 2025 or 26, I should say, and beyond, is really to have a living financial and operational brain for the project. And not a system of record that you update after the fact, but a platform that reflects reality in real time and actively helps leadership make decisions, just as we've been talking about with respect to a unified data model, pristine data, and AI agents enabling all of that. So I think what that means for our roadmap is a deeper AI integration that works within the data model, not bolted on top of it, as we talked about. It means mobile experiences for field crews that actually want to use the systems, because the best system in the world is worthless without an adoption. And it means that taking or making the CFO and the project manager look at the same values and agree on what it means is golden. So, if you've ever been in a meeting, you know that that's somewhat of a miracle when the CFO and the field people actually agree on what the data means. So maybe the future of ERP and construction and CMiC roadmap isn't specifically a product category, but I think that what we have is a competitive advantage by having that single database platform. And CMiC's job is to make sure that the industry has it and our customers enjoy what we provide.
That makes a ton of sense. So what do you see as like the modern day construction back office, front office? Like if we just kind of riff for a minute here and think about the future, and sometimes we don't get a chance to do this, Jeff. I don't sit down with you every day, but most of the meetings you and I have been, let's do a project and let's get the deal done. We're like in it. But for just a second, if we just kind of exteriorize from it all and kind of think about this, like what if you're listening to this and you're a director of finance or operations or IT for, a large construction company, $1 billion, or even maybe somebody that's 50 million, what would you paint for the picture of what their life's going to be like here in 5-10 years?
It might be radical, but I'll just pause it. I think that the human machine interface will completely change. I think that the fact that the way we interact with systems, computers, or whether it be financial system, project management system, it's always us recording data. So we have a keyboard, and that's our machine human interface. We have a keyboard and a mouse, and that's been in place, 50 years, and or more. And I think that will evolve to a different mode of interacting with systems. I think that systems will be screenless. The mode of machine-human interface will not be a keyboard and a mouse, but it'll be language, and it'll be the proverbial, Jean-Luc Picard Earl Grey tea, right? So and then you get it. And so the same thing will be with systems. We will talk to the system, and it'll be with natural language, and we'll say, I want to do this, and the system will just then perform it. And there'll be a plethora of AI agents that will understand what you're trying to do and will activate the task or the query, based on the agents that have been tuned to respond to the request. And that will happen probably within 5 years, in my opinion. I think that it'll be a full service type of system that will not be bound by somebody understanding how to use a system. Nobody will have to. The whole barrier to entry in terms of implementation will be evaporated. People will be given, we're going to use CMiC to manage our business from a systems perspective, but they won't even know what it looks like. It won't be the same configuration. Oh, you have a nice user interface. That'll be irrelevant. The user interface will become irrelevant in essence. It'll be just you just talk to it and it'll be able to give you what you need to do. Obviously, the activation and the physical deployment, that will stay the same for a long period of time. You talk about modular construction, and maybe components will be developed in factories and delivered to site. Okay, those are the deployment and physical things won't be recreated on site continuously, but that's the physical construction. But from a systems perspective, as mentioned, it'll be completely, the interface will be irrelevant, and we will talk to machines, talk to our systems rather than interface through a keyboard and a mouse.
And we're there in a lot of other applications.
Absolutely.
ERP seems so complex, but it's not. And that's why you all building the agents that you are and gaining the intelligence on
Right.
not just the agent's interaction and functionality and how to build them to come back with accurate data, but how do people want to interact with them and actually start creating some real value. Yeah, I think, I mean, it's interesting. I've been using the phrase renaissance with a lot of these calls for kind of an ERP renaissance. But it is almost like this sort of integration of kind of the human with the machine, right? And you can get into the Matrix and whatever other, Terminator. We'll leave all those aside for now. But I mean, our clients, right? Your clients would benefit from those things right now, and they'll pay for them. And I think there's just going to be more expectation as the iPhone gets easier to interact with, or Copilot's right there with Microsoft apps. And it's just a way of thinking that the client server architecture sort of started this view towards the graphical user interface and more of what the user wants. And I think what you said is spot on. And I think you're right. If you look at where we've even come with AI and with the large language models in the last year, much less 5 years from now,
Right.
I totally agree. And it's great to know you guys are thinking about that, and that you're building that for your customers. Our CMiC customers are expecting that and need that of you guys. So I think that's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are building towards that in an aggressive way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, good. Well, Jeff Weiss, Chief Revenue Officer of CMiC, I really appreciate your insights and time, and I think you gave us a lot to chew on, and thinking about sort of the impact to all of our businesses on what this means, especially in the construction industry. I think we're in for some exciting times.
That's why it's hard to leave. It's in the blood.
Yep, that's great. Okay, Jeff, thank you so much. And thanks to all our listeners for joining us for another ERP Leaders in ERP podcast.
Thank you for having me.